Akroma what's on so Huxley AGH Politics Avenue. On your podcast or training book is making headlines. And your Jimre na EDB Exum Awaha Nidium any Ahumbraximus ene ADD Kanya. Mr. Se ubitimi I subscribe to the channel Eddie Amame. Hit notification bell so share na fear for front so and sa into me and kebi. Any man Mr. say yonko yin simu. On your ye queen simma meno kase a ye Ghana abino. Meno kasei yede no akwa akogina eye asemdibia Supreme Court na eye Civil Society Group Democracy Hub ena meno kasei omo ensa ehyasie na ne nyina egina eye Deportees ho nsensem a meno kasei oman Ghana ene US ekọ memorandum of understanding no omo susu nyina ene se saa deal ya omukoi some kind of fiction bi ewoma ne senti no omode aban no ekọ court at this point in time yensemre yenko omu asuye na omagimre omobon simuno mu nchiremu AGH Politics Avenue yamishra se wagimre ewa yunra yinsimu.
Shifting our attention to some other stories this evening, and civil society group Democracy Hub has dragged the government of Ghana to the Supreme Court over what it describes as a secret deal with the United States to receive and detain deported West African nationals. The group is challenging the legality of a memorandum of understanding signed between the two countries, which allows deportees from the US to be temporarily held in Ghana before being sent to their home countries. According to Democracy Hub, the agreement is unconstitutional and violates international human rights conventions, including the 1951 Refugee Convention and the Convention Against Torture. The group argues that the MOU was entered into without parliamentary approval, contrary to Article 75(2) of Ghana's Constitution, which requires such agreement to be ratified by Parliament. A statement from the group said no government has the authority to secretly contract Ghana out of its constitutional and human rights obligations. And the Supreme Court, we are told, has fixed the 22nd of October, which is Wednesday, for the hearing of an interlocutory injunction seeking to suspend the implementation of the deal. And we want to get some further clarification on this. And in a bit, we'll speak to a member of the Democracy Hub group. Meanwhile, what we also do know is that the Foreign Affairs Minister, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has defended the arrangement and has had some interviews regarding that. But let's speak to Ketchefs Atengle. I hope that's the right pronunciation of your name. You can correct me if it is not. But thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Thank you for having me, and good evening to your listeners.
Right. To start with, what exactly are you seeking the Supreme Court to do? Because information we have indicates that, yes, the first 40 that the president told the nation about had been brought into the country and have actually left, and another batch we were told was coming in. We do not know whether they actually did come into the country and have left, but there seemed to be some clarity, or we've all sort of moved on beyond the day that this particular issue was quite topical. So why is Democracy Hub now going to court over this?
Yeah, so this is an issue. We live in a country that we hold dearly the rule of law as a core principle for running or administering affairs. And so if our arrangement as a country, right, the government in any international contract or arrangement would need to be transparent about the deals, right, the details of these transactions, and most importantly, bring it to Parliament approval, right? And all these processes were not followed. So there seems to be some sort of secrecy in the dealings, and more so, it doesn't uphold the fundamental human rights that the Constitution of the Republic seems to guarantee. for all people, that we interact with, not just Ghanaians, but Ghana is a member of a community of nations. And so we need to protect such rights of people that we relate with. And so for Ghana to have this agreement, in secret with the United States government, this is improper. And so we are seeking the Supreme Court to declare it an illegality, and that will need to be discontinued.
Right. So, if I am understanding what Democracy Hub seeks to do, or what you are telling us, it is that although the thing has happened and is in the past, you are seeking the Supreme Court to ensure that no government flouts future agreements if they intend to go into any kind of agreement with another country. Is that the case?
Of course, if we allow this to fly, then it becomes precedent for future things of that nature. But right. It is on such grounds that we are seeking this direction from the Supreme Court.
So, are you also looking for probable sanctions? I don't know what form that will take, but because it was obvious and clear in the Constitution that government needed to go to Parliament and did not do that, maybe some retrospective sanctions be taken against the government. Is that the case as well?
Yeah, these are all included in the 28 release that we are seeking from the Supreme Court. That as much as possible, the court would need to apply some sanctions to the government, which should serve as a deterrent for such future actions of that nature.
Okay. What if government's strongest argument is that as of the time they were going into this agreement, Parliament was on recess, so they really didn't have the time and space to probably recall Parliament to agree on this? Maybe that was why they took the unilateral agreement.
They could have waited. The people were not dying, right? They could have waited for Parliament to reconvene, or more so, ask Parliament to reconvene under emergency conditions if that was necessary. But this was not an emergency.
I get your point.
And so we don't understand why government should take such moves when you know it is clearly illegal.
Okay. Right. Well, we will see. Since that the court has said that the hearing will be on the 22nd of October, we'll just have to leave it here for now and see what the coming days hold. Thank you for making time to speak with us this evening.
I appreciate the time, my brother.
Right. We've been speaking to Policy and Research Coordinator with Democracy Hub, Kirchhoffs Atengle, who is asking that the Supreme Court actually look into the decision of government to take in some deportees from the U.S. without due process or without going through Parliament. What do you make of it as well as a Ghanaian? You've also been following and listening through. Do tell us or share your opinion with us on our Facebook and YouTube stream, where this bulletin is also live. Let's turn our attention to health now. The minority in Parliament has kicked against assertions by the Minister in charge of health that the past government is responsible for the high numbers of unpaid nurses and midwives in the country. Ranking member on the Health Committee, Dr. Ayiwe Friye, says a financial clearance was granted for over 15,000 health workers, criticizing government for what he describes as a leadership failure. My colleague Christian Yali was in Parliament for that press conference and has come through with this report.
Nurses and midwives embarked on street protest for unpaid salaries. Their frustrations and agitations were laid bare, prompting widespread concerns. The health minister in a media engagement said government inherited a difficult situation but is working to right the wrongs of the past administration.
We inherited a situation where about 13,500 nurses and midwives had been recruited and posted without financial clearance. when a financial clearance is issued, you must necessarily migrate the health professionals onto the payroll before the expiration of the clearance. And so we had two options as government, whether to let all the 13,500 nurses and midwives go home. And the second option was to allow them to continue to work whilst we look at how we can get money to pay them.
But the minority would not have any of that, calling the minister's comment non-factual.
All those who the ministry recruited with regards to this clearance had their 5 months salaries from July, August, September, October. Now the difference is that the ministry was able to do its validations and they did it spot on. This clearance expired on the 31st by item 7. Now, in normal public administration and civil service of this country, financial clearances expire. Even under this government, they will have financial clearances expire and they will go for extension. They did not extend this for political reasons. And then 10 months down, they faced an embarrassment where the students or the staff went on a public agitation, demonstration, to draw your mind to this clearance and the need for extension. Embarrassing enough. You are saying that you've taken it to cabinet for an approval. What sort of cabinet do you have to take for an approval when you have a clearance already?
The minority is saying that, see, they have been very reasonable over the period and seen to it that they would extend a goodwill, not to even the government of the day, but to the ordinary Ghanaian citizens who need healthcare facilities or services for their daily living. But they just realized that government is, in a way, making the whole situation political, for which reason they have seen the need to respond to this.
You're throwing dust in the eyes of the people. So government created a mess. And they've seen 10 months is caught up on them and they are fixing it. And that's when you take political decisions. You see, the minority, we are a reasonable minority. We cannot continue to be reasonable when you take the youth of this country for granted. The youth of this country matter, Ghanaians matter, nurses matter, and midwives also matter. Government should come and tell us that there was no clearance. There was, it expired. And they should tell us if indeed in public administration there has not been clearance which had expired and has been extended. It's not news. They should pay them now because the money was allocated. They should pay them now.
With the politics playing out and each side seeking to make their case, the stranded and frustrated health workers have only a wish that their salaries are paid and conditions made better.
And that report was put together by Christian Yali, who is a correspondent from the courts, from Parliament. Away from that, President John Mahama says an interministerial committee is to be set to inaugurate and conduct a feasibility studies ahead of the establishment of a green digital city in Ghana. He estimates that the project will be completed in phases within the next 20 years.
Transformation, we plan to establish a new green city that will straddle the three regions of Greater Accra, Volta, and Eastern regions. I'll soon inaugurate an interministerial committee to guide the design and feasibility study.
We apologize for that break in transmission. So the president was speaking earlier in China today after he had met with the Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Chinese Premier Li Qiang. All right, so the president also has revealed that Ghana and China are set to conclude a zero tariff agreement by end of this month. China has said that the expansion of its zero tariff policy to cover all 53 African countries, including Ghana, is set to maintain diplomatic ties to boost Africa's economy and offer the continent a benchmark to seek equal or better terms from other trading partners. Speaking at a presidential investment forum in Beijing, China, President John Mahama announced that both nations have reached an agreement towards achieving that course.
2020 and 2024, China's exports to Ghana rose by nearly 46%, while Ghana's exports to China increased by over 11%. China's decision to grant zero tariff access to Ghanaian and African products signals the confidence in our partnership. It opens vast new markets for Ghanaian exporters, agro-processors, and manufacturers. And I'm happy to inform you that we reached agreement in principle, and we have targeted the end of October to be able to sign off on the zero tariff principle. To commend the government of China for this act of solidarity. We are all aware that the multilateral rules-based trading system is being appended by unilateral slapping of tariffs on different countries. This is the time for us to solidarize and to come together, and this initiative by China is very timely.
President John Dramani Mahama speaking in China earlier today. The District Road Improvement Program, known as DRIP, is facing serious setbacks due to the lack of dedicated funding for fuel to power road maintenance equipment. As a result, many inner community roads remain in poor condition, particularly in the Kwowu-Afram Plains North and South districts, where local authorities say that they are struggling to meet growing maintenance needs. Stanley Niblewu reports. We'll try and bring you that report in our subsequent bulletins. But now we are inching away from, just a few seconds away from the latest in the world of business. Institutions across the country is actually broad-based, so we don't put pressure on just the big cities.
Let me assure you that the improvement of the quality of education in Ghana is a national agenda. It's a national agenda. When I say national agenda, I mean it covers all the 16 regions of the country. We have already identified some regions that do not have any category A school at all. For example, some parts of the northern regions, northeast regions, savannah regions, there are some parts that do not have any at all. We have identified them, and we are going to intentionally, consciously ensure that institutions, senior high schools there have been improved, have been resourced to a level where learners would love to go into such educational institutions. So be assured that the agenda for improvement is a national agenda. Right. It is not only targeting just some elite schools, elite cities and not just towns and all that. No, we are cutting across the entire country.
Now, talk to us about the current state of the placement process. We know that the minister has been quite concerned about the pressure that has been there in the last few days, parents and wards getting quite frustrated. What, per the information you've gathered, is the latest with just 2 or 3 days for schools to reopen?
All right. So the first is that for all the category A schools we have in the country, before the placements are even done, we go to the headmasters to declare vacancies based on the spaces they have, so that learners are posted there. We had 79,000 vacancies declared across all the category A schools. Could you believe that about 340,000 learners picked category A schools? So we are literally contending with 79,000 vacancies against 340,000 people who are desiring to go into those schools. And so naturally, no magic can allow that 340,000 people be squeezed into a 79,000 capacity space. So that's the first one. And that's for those who desire to be in category A schools at all costs. It was never going to be possible because of the numbers and the figures involved here. So that's one. Number two, the target was to put 590,000 learners. In fact, those are the numbers that qualified for placements. Now, out of this number, we have posted over 580,000. Over 580,000. So far as we are concerned, a significant majority of the learners have been placed. In fact, if you go to the resolution centers where you find a lot of parents complaining bitterly and a lot of parents castigating and sharing frustrations over the placement, you will realize that every single one of them have the award already placed. So the placement itself is not really the issue. The issue is that most of these parents want to change from one school to the other. And we are saying, and we continue to plead with them, that it is literally not possible that the computer or the Ghana Education Service will place people where they desire. Right? That's the more reason we gave options that a learner would select 7 schools and give the 7 schools to us. So once you give us 7 good schools, the assumption is that these are schools you are okay with and comfortable with. So if we place you in any of those 7 schools, either your first or your 7th choice, or your 5th or your 4th or your 3rd choice, the assumption is that these are schools you yourself selected and gave to us to work with. And that's exactly what we have done. If you are coming back to say that you don't want this school, you want your first choice, you want your grade A, it doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem with the placement. There's not. It is your desire and your taste that is making it look like there's a problem with the placement. And so far as we are concerned, a significant majority of the learners have already been placed. And trust me, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, these are the reporting days. A learner can choose any of these 3 days because we understand that over 590,000 learners traveling across the country, there could be transportation pressures and all that. So if you are not able to report on Saturday, you can go on Sunday. If you are not able to report on Sunday, you can go on Monday. Trust me, about 590,000 learners will be reporting to the various senior high schools over the weekend.
Yes. Thank you.
We a samahuru team course watching on so Mamma so Jimre Oha, the Sene, so bad, the Adumbi Edomania, Yabesan Room, na Yasumo Quanson Kusokra. Aha, AGH Politics Avenue.